Today is Friday, April 18th, 2025, and welcome back to Love Remembers. Today I'm doing something a little different, something a little more personal, something special. First, before we start, I want to thank every single one of you for doing your part, for you spreading the messages, for subscribing, for restacking, and for standing up for the truth. Because of you, we've gone from number 8 to number 4 on the Substack bestsellers list. That's right. And now we're also number 2 in world politics. Love Remembers isn't just a community anymore. It's a movement. And it's growing every day because every single one of you, because of every share, every comment, every paid subscription. Now it's become something bigger than all of us. And to all of you paid subscribers, thank you. Because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. You make this possible. And for all of you that have not yet become a paid subscriber, please consider joining today. Because right now, this is not just important, it's really essential. So now I'm going to ask you something I usually never ask. I'm going to ask you to sit through this entire video. Because this video is different than probably most of all the videos I've done before. A lot of you have been asking me and constantly asking me, what's Donald Trump's love for Putin? What's going on with Putin? So I decided to give you the raw truth through this video. So please watch it to the end. Because this is not going to be just some commentary from some pundit or some analysis from somebody who wrote a book about Trump from the outside looking in. This is going to come from me, someone who lived it. Remember, I worked for Fred Trump when I was just 15 years old, selling Trump co-ops in Brooklyn, New York. I've known Donald Trump personally. I've worked alongside his inner circle. I was sent by him to Ukraine, if you remember, in 2019. So this, what I'm going to tell you today, is not an opinion. This is somebody from inside looking out. And today, I want to give you something very real, a personal message. Something about Donald Trump's relationship with Vladimir Putin, how it began, how it evolved, and why he acts the way he does when it comes to Russia. So again, I'm going to please watch this one through to the end, because to understand where Trump is going next, you have to understand where he came from. Because to defeat Donald Trump, you really need to know Donald Trump. And very few people know Donald Trump like me. So here we go. Trump didn't just suddenly become who he is, folks. He grew up, you have to understand, in an authoritarian household under his father, Fred Trump, a man who ran the family like a machine. I know this firsthand because I worked for Fred when I was just 15 years old, selling Trump co-ops in Brooklyn. I write all about this extensively in my book, Shadow Diplomacy. That experience shaped a lot that had to do with things that I did going forward in my life. Back in the 70s and 80s, you have to understand, Donald wasn't just trying to break free from his father's orbit. Fred built in Queens and Brooklyn a powerful machine, but it was more for low-income housing. Donald, he wanted Manhattan. He wanted the power, the glamour, the ritz, the status. But if you remember, New York in the late 70s wasn't what it is today. It was very tough, gritty. I mean, 42nd Street was filled with porn theaters and hustlers. Crime was up, and to build in Manhattan back then, you didn't do it without the 5 families, right? The Italian 5 families. The mafia controlled the unions. They controlled the concrete. I mean, basically all the deals that went through New York. And Trump knew that. He made those connections. He dealt with people like Anthony Fat Tony Salerno. He was the godfather of the Genovese family. Paul Castellano, the godfather of the Gambino family. Names like that ran New York's construction racket. And he knew the rules and he played the game. Around that time, he met a guy by the name of Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn, you might recall, he was Joe McCarthy's former right-hand man, his political attack dog and fixer for mob bosses. Roy became Trump's mentor. He taught him never to apologize, always hit harder, and never treat loyalty as disposable. And when Roy was dying of AIDS, a lot of people don't know, but Trump dropped him, wouldn't visit him, wouldn't take his call. Because that's the real Donald Trump. Cold, transactional, pretty much ruthless. And then when in the 80s and 90s, Trump moved into Atlantic City, casinos, cash, corruption. Back then, it was a New Jersey mob had their claws deep in the casino industry. Trump's empire was built on that foundation, folks. But then came the 90s, the collapse of the Soviet Union. Pretty much that quite changed everything for Donald Trump. Because you have to understand, Trump graduated now from suddenly he had a new kind of mob. It was the Russian, brutal, and global. These people were not just street thugs, they were looting their own country blind. They were turning oil, metal into billions. And then what did they do? They were shipping that money overseas. And where did a lot of that money go, you ask? Into New York real estate, folks. Anonymous LLCs, cash deals, no questions asked. Trump Tower became a laundromat. Brighton Beach, that's where I grew up. It became the Russian-speaking capital of the US. They called it Little Odessa back then. And it's, I think, still now also. That's when Trump's world started blending with Russian oligarch class. Names like Roman Abramovich, Oleg Deripaska, Aras Agalarov. These names were not just billionaires, folks. These names were men who were tied to Putin, men who got rich off state connection. These men who were investing in Trump properties. And here's what I really need you to understand. I want you to sit back for a second and think. So Trump, as a youth, Trump spent learning the rules of authoritarianism through his father, Fred. Then growing up as a young adult, learning life how to operate like a mob boss with the likes of Roy Cohen. And then once the Soviet Union fell, he graduated. He graduated, folks. He learned how dictators really control the world through influence, through oligarchs, and most important, through fear. So that's why he praises Putin. That's why he copies his moves. That's why he doesn't care about peace in Ukraine, folks. Because to him, it's not about democracy. I've been saying it for the past 6 years, and I'm going to say it to you again. It's all about the power and the optics. Just like when he sent me to Ukraine in 2019 to get a fake investigation into the Bidens, not because he wanted justice, but because he wanted the appearance of a scandal. He needed a press conference, a soundbite, a talking point. And this is where I want you to sit back for a second because it gets interesting here. Because this is where Europe comes in. Because a lot of you also can't understand the hatred towards Europe. We'll give you a little tidbit. Because with Donald Trump, it's all about revenge. And this Europe is part of the revenge tour. You have to understand, growing up for most of his life, Donald Trump was never taken seriously by international elite. He wasn't respected. He didn't have a real global empire. Just a few golf courses in Ireland and Scotland. And remember, in the United States, through all his bankruptcies, he only became famous through The Apprentice. So there was a time when he showed up at Davos. The world's financial elite shunned him, folks. He wasn't welcomed at the table. He wasn't seen as legitimate. And Donald Trump never forgot that. That's part of it why you see his obsession with Germany, France, NATO, and the EU. It's not about ideology. It's about personal revenge for him, a lifetime of rejection. So you guys see, to him, Putin was never that. Putin was feared. Putin was respected. Putin was ruthless. Everything Trump always wanted to be. And just like that, just like Putin, Trump doesn't want peace in Ukraine. He wants to appear as one who can deliver it to you. That's all, again, optics. But meanwhile, you have to understand, Putin can't end the war, even if he wanted to. I'm going to give you some reasons that most media and nobody talks about. You have to understand there's over 700,000 Russian soldiers that have fought so far in this Ukraine war. many of these soldiers would be returning traumatized, broken, and violent. Russia can't absorb that. They're a threat to the state. They have no system set up to absorb it. The economy, Russian economy, has been restructured over the past 4 years around war. All their whole industry, regions dependent on military production. You pull the plug and it all collapses. And most importantly, Putin's political survival depends on the war. He uses it to jail opposition, to silence dissent, consolidate control. Without the war, he loses everything. And here in the US, while this is happening overseas, Trump is watching and learning. Look at what's going on with the Kilmer Abrego Garcia case. Again, I want to emphasize, doesn't matter, he's a good guy, bad guy. Doesn't matter if he's a criminal, not MS-13. It's about the rights, due process. He was picked up illegally, deported illegally. The court ordered him back. Trump says no. Why? Because he's testing the system. He's seeing how far he can go, just like Putin did in Russia. So when you ask me about Trump, he's not imitating democracy, folks. No. What he's imitating is dictatorship. So the question that we started off with, what everybody asked me, so is Donald Trump Putin's puppet? I'm going to give you the answer, no, folks. What Donald Trump is, Putin's student. And that's even more dangerous. Because everything he learned, he's applying right here, right now. I hope that gives you a little bit more insight about Donald Trump and his relationship with Putin. I hope you now understand why Trump is who he is and why he wants what he wants and why he acts the way he acts. I want to thank you again for all your support, and for everything you've done, for speaking truth to power and letting my voice be heard. And again, like I said in the beginning, without you, we couldn't make it happen. All of you subscribers, because this isn't about politics anymore. This is about our survival. This is about our democracy. I want to thank you again. I want to wish everyone a good weekend. For those of you who a special happy Easter, who celebrate Easter Sunday. And I'm Love Parnas, and this is Love Remembers.